Dad's Giant's hat is grimy and stained. It's as though it had been dunked in dirty water or commuted daily in the elements of heat, snow, and wind before being left under a cardboard box when I found it in Dad's car. At the edge of the brim of the hat, there are stitches of thread. Dad had tried to sew back together the worn edges. It was familiar. I had seen him wear this hat a few years ago on the day he had met my boyfriend, who would later become my husband. I have a photo from that day. I hadn't taken a photo with my father in a long time. These are the last photos I have of us together. Holding the hat, I also think about how it looks similar to the one he used to wear to a couple of my track meets. Maybe the one in his car was the exact hat from then. It looks old enough to be. While warming up for my race, I see him. I couldn't believe he had shown up. I'm 16 now. It's my junior year of high school, and I've run over 50 races on varsity, through cross-country and indoor and outdoor track. I hadn't seen Dad at any of my meets. He is standing near the entrance of Manley Fieldhouse, under the stadium awning and by the heavy orange doors. The brim of his hat creates a slight shadow on his face. It's been a cold winter, and he's also wearing a heavy brown coat with a plastic bag in his hand, and he's looking for me. I saw him before he saw me. Behind his glasses, his eyes are panning the indoor track arena. The high jumpers, the long jumpers, the shot put throwers, cheers, and a gun going off for another race. I cut through a pack of other girls running and warming up. Dad and I are both surprised to see each other. We hug, and I realize how unnatural it is, how unoften I see his face, how we are almost at eye level now. The smoky smell on his coat is strong and seems to be the only thing that is the same. With each blink I take in his appearance and his tired stance, I'm relieved that he has faded into the background of the arena under the awning. It must have been a bus or a friend dropping him off at the corner outside. His face looks windblown and blotchy, as if he was cold from walking outside. He looks older than his age, gray hair sprouting out from the sides of his hat, his eyes watery, his eyebrows bushy. I know less about him than more in this moment. It's as though he knows less about me, too. It has been a couple months since I saw him in person. Since he got out of the Jamesville Correctional Facility, I've seen him in person in quick spurts, short visits at Mom's house if someone else that he knew could drop him off for an hour. We mostly spoke on the phone. He said he would try to make it to my meet this week. We usually connected over the phone talking about running, but if he said that he could make it to one of my meets, I never really expected him to be here, because it always ended up being a no-show. When he mentions how brutal the wind was during his walk over, I smile gently at him, into his difficult situation and lack of stability in a car. I try not to imagine where he lives, because I do not know exactly, and I bust through an impending quietness between us. I already ran the 4x4. I ran the last leg. We were behind, but I got us up to third place. I beat my PR in the 400. My personal record, I said, but he knew what I meant. Runner talk. Years ago at Zog, he had encouraged me to beat my personal record. You always were fast. I always have been confident of that, he says. And I let his compliment hug my heart for a minute. He hadn't been there as a fixture here at the track. He hadn't given me his words of wisdom before each race to run with. My stomach starts to swirl around. My nerves rattle, more than usual before my race. Mom is in the stands above us, but Dad seems settled standing where he is. The gun goes off for another race behind us. The liveliness and hopefulness, the energy in the air. I want to bring the acceleration close to me, but my shortcomings are right in my face. The truth of what makes me run harder, who I run for, what I run from. It's all the same. You're still the running rebel to me, he charms me with an old eyebrow arch. I smile lightly, and a part of me wants to reminisce with him, but more of me hopes that no one is looking at us. I try to ignore the pulls of childhood, telling me that I knew him when things were better, and that I really do miss him. I don't want to think right now about the way I wish it was. He was failing to comply with his probation sentence of 5 years. There had been slip-ups with the alcohol censor from his probation officer. He was discharged unsuccessfully from an alcohol treatment program because of too many missed appointments. He had been arrested for aggravated harassment and was sentenced to restored probation after violating the original conditions of his probation sentence. Last year, in 10th grade, Dad spoke to my class about alcohol abuse. His parole officer might have given him a ride. The teacher was listening and letting Dad roll, a guest speaker who lived it, the father of a student in the class. Dad starts talking about what alcohol can do to the body, the mind. Then he mentions all that he lost, and he looks at me. Why, the minute the teacher mentioned alcoholism, I had to offer this first-hand account and offer my father to speak about it. Standing with him, here surrounded by my purpose in life, I inhale the dry air and hear the sound of feet churning up the 6-lane running track behind me. I think about how irritating his voice can be sometimes on the phone. It's as though he's a fungus, dragging on about his problems, struggles, what's bothering him, or an asshole he met. I don't want to be the thing keeping him hopeful constantly, but I know I am. I hear the cheers of parents and coaches loudly telling other runners to stay with it during their races. Along with the 4x4 relay, I'm running the rare 500-meter dash today, I tell Dad. I've never raced it before. I've ran the 600, but not the unusual 500-meter race. I start to feel my competition warming up nearby, taking notice of my team's name on my uniform, taking notice of Dad's crusty shoes and floppy shoelaces. I've got to go get ready. My teammates are stretching down at our team's hub, and I had to go. He hadn't been here last month, or last week. Do you know how hard I work to look strong? I want to ask him to be strong and push harder until my heart feels as though it's exploding out of my chest. I work so hard not to let the thought of your mistakes hold me back and drain out my thoughts of striving when I hit the curves on this indoor track. The burn in my chest right before I dry heave and puke makes me feel alive. I still remember that electric feeling inside me so clearly. Do you remember last year when I was the third leg of the 4x4 at OHSL's, the North Division Championship? We were first place all league. I missed you being there. I wanted to tell him. We had spoken on the phone, and he knew I had been the co-captain of the cross-country team that previous fall. There was my name, my last name, my backbone. The last name I shared with Dad was heard in the morning announcements after each cross-country race. That season in my junior year of outdoor track, I'd qualify for the New York State meet with the winning Section 3 Class A time in the 400 meters. And after that, I'd keep going. I'd qualify for Empire State Games held at Hofstra on Long Island. And then there would be Junior Olympics in New Jersey that summer. All the miles from cross-country, indoor and outdoor track. I had run so much further than my hopeful lap around the dirt track with Dad years ago. I had uprooted myself from the dirt up, never in socks, always in bright-colored running flats, and the collage of ribbons in my bedroom was proof that I was good enough, although I didn't have any prospects for college. An athletic scholarship was on my mind. My best grades came from art class, so I figured I would ignore my limping C+ average and find a school with an advertising major and a running program. I emailed a coach from Long Island at New York Institute of Technology, sharing my running times and achievements. After I received a reply, I told my high school coach, and after visiting the college down in Long Island, it seemed like the best option, the only option I had. Dad had visited my mom's house before I left for college, arranging a ride from a friend. He had worn a hat. Part of his face was in shadow, as if his congratulations was meaningful, but he couldn't truly look me in the eye. He had known that he hadn't been there. "I'll call you," I said to him and hugged him goodbye. I'm not sure I will too often, though. I'm not sure if he will be staying at the house of the phone number that he gave me too much longer anyways. I try not to focus on his crooked eyeglasses. I get the sense he will tell everyone he meets, my daughter is down on Long Island studying advertising on a track scholarship. She'll be home for Thanksgiving. I took his few bucks when he said in one of his Shakespearean voices, "And goodbye for now." I was unsure of how he was really doing, and I really didn't want to care.